either it's less good than the original song, so what is it for? Or it's better and it destroys the original song and then it becomes a problem. So there's not really like a win-win situation in a remix.
Hi, I'm Nick and I'm joined by Justice for the latest Enemies in Conversation series. How's it going today?
We're good, and you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us in London. You just got in last night.
Yes.
Do you like coming to London? Is it somewhere you've been to a lot over the years?
Yeah, but I used to live in London in the late 2000s. And so I think I prefer visiting than living in London.
How did you find living in London back then?
Like the city is huge, and we have a couple of friends in London. And I think the years I was living in London was the time I saw them the less, because it's hard to be spontaneous and say, oh, let's meet this afternoon, and then you have to ride in a car for an hour and a half, and Paris is like a village compared to London, really. Huh? You can walk and.
It feels much more walkable, like you say. Like you can kind of get everywhere in about 45 minutes on foot rather than an hour and a half in a cab.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've got a new album out, coming out, Hyperdrama. What was the starting point for the album? Did one song spark it off, or one idea?
There was several ideas that were leading the album. And some of those ideas we've been thinking of for years. If I had to sum it up in 2 words, in one line, but I would be a bit reductive because there's much more to it. But Hyperdrama, it's a disco album made with a hardcore techno sound.
Cool. When did you start work on it?
We started a week before the pandemic, before the lockdown. And so we met at the studio, started talking about it for a couple of days, then shut down everything, spent 4 months apart, and then we started again in summer 2020. And we finished in November 2023.
It's quite a long process.
Yeah, it was. It was, and it was nice to be, we really started this album in the mindset that we had unlimited time to do it. Because by the time we started, Woman, our previous album, had already been out for 4 years. And it's always been like this in Justice, that every time we start working on a new record, we're already too late to be in a rush. So we're okay, let's start making an album. We have these ideas. Let's push them to the limits of what we can achieve, and we'll see when it's finished. But from the moment we started, we also knew that it would be a time-consuming album to make, for many reasons. And also when we spend 3 years and a half working on an album, it's not 3 years and a half working 12 hours a day, every day of the week on the record. We work a bit, then we take a week off, then we work a bit, a couple of days. It was regular, but we were not forcing anything. And but yeah, it was long. Only when we finished it, we realized that it had been 3 years and a half of work, because despite the length of the recording and the production, it really felt very smooth and fluid. So yeah.
How did you know when the album was done?
You know it here.
It's a gut feeling thing.
Yeah, always.
I think I saw in a previous interview that you said you like to work a week on, a week off, every other week.
Yes.
Why is that? Is that so you can kind of get a bit of space on the ideas and a bit of kind of objective?
Yeah, it's always good to have some perspective on what you've just done, and then you can refine stuff way quicker, because when you're too much into it, then you can lose a bit of the general picture.
There's 2 tracks on the album featuring Tame Impala's Kevin Parker,
Yeah.
Never Ender and One Night, All Night. How did that collaboration come about, and what made you want to bring him on board?
Well, we've been listening to Kevin's music from like almost like the beginning of Tame Impala, like in the late 2000s, before the release of the first album, and to be honest, we liked the first album, but we really understood like the genius of Tame Impala when in the, I think it was around 2011 or 2012, before the release of Lonerism, we've been sent Elephant to make a remix of it. And when we heard this track, we really felt that he had something more. And I say we felt he had something more. At the time, we still believed Tame Impala was like a band. We didn't know it was like a one-man band. But and we had to turn it down because the song was too good, and we replied saying we're not gonna do remix because like we can't think of anything we could do that potentially is gonna make it better. You know, like for us the song was perfect, and it was hitting like so many things right at the same time. And it's rare like to have like this type of bands or songs that everybody agrees on when we receive that song, and then like things starting to unfold, like everybody liked it, like from like the people who listen to electronic music, people who listen to rock music, people who listen to pop music, people who like very intelligent music or whatever. Like everybody was thinking, okay, that's the best thing happening right now.
Wow.
And so we always had him in a corner of our minds. But then we started working on our album, and we felt it was the right moment like to maybe try something. Because although Tame Impala's music and ours is very different, listening to his music and listening to the evolution of Tame Impala, we felt that the common ground is really big. And there's a lot of things that we share in terms of like taste and ways of making things. So we said, okay, why not? You know, it's like doesn't cost anything. Either it works and it's cool, it doesn't work. Worst thing that can happen is that you spend a couple of days having fun. And so we got in touch. I think late 2020 or early 2021, and we were working on those songs on the span of I don't know, a couple of years, meeting, working a bit, then just like going separate ways, meeting again like 6 months after, working a bit again on those songs, then like going away, and that was good. That's a very good way of making things. You know, it's like you brew like a liquor or whatever, then you let it age in a barrel, then you come back a couple of years later, taste it, saying like, yeah, okay, I can leave it 1 more year. Maybe I'm gonna add a bit of like oak, or I'm gonna transfer it to another barrel, and we feel it's very healthy to just take time to let things rest, and for at least for us it works.
You said that you found Kevin Parker had a very like fascinating approach to melody. I was wondering, what is it about his kind of songwriting that is fascinating in that way?
But this is actually like one of the only example I can think of, like to have made like such an uncompromising type of music that is very personal, and you can identify like at the first 2 bars, you know it's him. And he has this special quality that we love. It's always melancholic, but it's always hopeful, and it's never like it's never dull. And yeah, like he's really like one of the greats of this generation. Like he's nobody really managed to do this at such a high scale.
And it's amazing he's now kind of moving into the pop world, producing Dua Lipa's album. I mean, he's kind of crossing genres.
Yeah, that suits him well. But I remember we had this talk when we were working on those songs about like the and that's just for us, you know, we told him like every time he releases a new album, like the first listen, we're like, okay, that's fine, you know, that's cool, you know, not whatever because it's cool, but like voilà, fine. And then you listen to it again, and like, yeah, that's pretty good, you know. And then before you know it, you know all the songs by heart, and they just like penetrated you. And then we saw him live like during the recording. And then like the show unrolls, and this is when you realize that you were listening to 25 hits in a row. Yet you know all the songs, and that's really and we noticed that also with like the songs we made together, that there's something that sounds really simple in appearance, but actually all the choices are very very specific. The choices of notes and it sounds very streamlined and simple, but it's way more complex than what it appears to be. And for example, like we're working on the live show now, and one part of the live show is like sometimes to go from one song to another, we have to take the vocals of one track and then put it to another one. And for example, one night it only works on one night. I think it's the first time that we can't put a bit of vocals on any other track. It's really like precise everything, and even when we're working, sometimes we were a bit surprised by the choice that he would make, and we're like, yeah, but it would be like maybe more natural to do it like this. It was like, no, like we're doing it like that, and finally then, after a couple of days, it seems impossible for the line to be something else than what it is. So it's really fascinating.
He's very good at writing growers. You know, like it seems simple at first, and you're like, okay, cool, and then it just becomes this kind of earworm, and he has a real talent for this.
But earworm with a twist and with something very it's really good.
You also have Miguel on the album, and his voice sounds incredible on that track. What made you want to work with him?
Actually,
we always loved what he was doing.
Yeah, we got introduced to Miguel's music by a British lady. Actually, she's called Mara Carlyle, and on Woman, our previous album, we worked with her for all like the orchestral sessions and the choirs and everything. She was like our like how do you say, inside man or inside woman rather, with all of the orchestral work, and so she's like I don't think you can be more a British lady than she is, and she really bathes in the classical music environment, and she told us, oh, you should check out this guy Miguel, and she played us the Valet, which is like a very sleazy track that sounds a bit like Nine Inch Nails, but with this like twist, of course. And we really, we fell in love with his music. And coincidentally, he got in touch with us the following year to propose it to if we could maybe make something for him and just make some music. And we did try a couple of things, but it was not working. There was no real magic to it. It was like serviceable, but not good enough. But we didn't what's the word? Yeah, we still wanted to try something. So every once in a while we get in touch. And when we made Saturnine, same thing. We thought, okay, maybe that this one will work. And we brought him like a early demo of the song. Went to visit him in Los Angeles, and we worked on the track.
What, at this point in your career, what makes an artist someone you want to work with? Because I guess in theory you could reach out to absolutely anyone.
But the thing is that we we were always attracted to those kind of falsetto voices, and it's not the first time we're doing it, like, because we've been collaborating with a lot of vocalists over the years. But I guess the main like common point between all these artists is that they are used to do everything by themselves most of the time in home studios. If you take Miguel or the Flints or Rimon, Conan Mocassin, they are most of them are just completely self-sufficient, and they have a very strong and unique. They just deliver something that is very special, and so to us it was okay. Like we like your universe, and maybe if we do something together, it's gonna make something new for everybody.
And yeah, I think beyond a musical taste, because of course the first thing we're looking for is like something that we feel is gonna produce good music at the end. For us, like maybe the most important parameter is integrity. And we love people who just pursue something that is not always consensual. It doesn't prevent them, and Thundercat or Kevin or Miguel are very good example that you can make it without being too consensual, you know, or like overtly trying to please people. And yours, so yeah, that's the good package for us, like integrity, good music. That's like all the people we want to work with have at least those two qualities.
Heavy metal's obviously been an influence on Justice from the start. Would you want to work with a heavy metal vocalist? Is that something you think could work, or is it too obvious in a way?
No, but it's mostly about the imagery that we so we and obviously like in the beginnings like the distortion, but we never really felt it was a huge influence on us, and probably like the thing we like the least in heavy metal is the vocals, but we like the classical influences, the technicity, and mostly the imagery is still fascinating.
So maybe a metal musician rather than the vocalist could be a collaborator.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you are a big fan of Steve Vai, right?
Yeah, more Joe Satriani.
Joe Satriani.
Yeah, but as Gaspard said, like weirdly enough, because I think a lot of people associate Justice with heavy metal. It's of all the contemporary genres, I think it's one of the music style that appeals to us the least. You know? Yeah, I never listen to metal at home.
But we have one song called Heavy Metal.
Yeah, but that's because of the magazine.
Yeah.
Although we listen to a lot of rock music, and as far as I'm concerned, this is like the main, like most of the time, if I play a record, it's gonna be a rock record. I don't really feel attracted to heavy metal. Yeah, there's like and that's kind of counterintuitive, because we're gonna present you like a heavy metal band, and it's meant to sound like very powerful and abrasive, and in most cases it sounds like this, even compared to like you listen to like any track on Electric Warrior and any track on an old Slayer record, and the T-Rex track is gonna sound like massive and just with way more power, because like that's the power, that's the soft power, the power of having space and not like playing as fast as you can, you know what I mean? It's so no, it's like we do like some stuff, but it's really not something that we take inspiration from. I hope I'm not gonna make like a lot of enemies from like all the heavy metal scene.
No, but I mean,
it's all right, we're not Kerrang.
No, but we do love the concept of heavy metal, though.
Yeah, I think we like the idea more than the music.
The imagery is so cool.
Yeah.
I totally get that. You mentioned putting the live show together. How are you feeling about playing Glastonbury this summer? I think first time since 2017.
There's such a long gap between every tour and every album that we always feel that we start again from zero, you know, like every time we make something, we come back. We really feel like rookies again. Everything is new again. The world is also changing so fast that really we have no idea what it's like to play in a festival now. We have no idea what's the crowd. We have no idea what's like. We have like a slight idea, but not really about what's the scene, what are the expectations of people. It's like everything is completely new again.
Do you like being on the road? I mean, as you said, it's been a while since you've done it.
We like the result of being on the road, and we like afterward, I think, to see how that was the show. That was cool. This was nice, you know. But being on the road per se, it's cool, you know, and there's a lot of months of fun. But we're definitely more studio guys than stage guys. Maybe things would be different if we had like the charisma of Mick Jagger or whatever, you know. But things are a way that we prefer being in a studio.
You did make a tour documentary before,
Yeah.
I think 2008, Across the Universe. Would you do that again?
No.
It could only be made once, and we did it.
And we knew it. That was the statement of this documentary. It was like, let's make it because it's now or never. In 2 years, we're already gonna be too old to do that. And also like we made it so we are never tempted to make a documentary about ourselves. That's a documentary that's meant to make a good publicity of your band, you know. We can't imagine like ever making a documentary where you interview people and say, yeah, Justice is it's a great band. Or there was like pioneers, or you know what I mean. It's the worst. So we're like, let's make one documentary where we're gonna make full of ourselves actually, because this is what this documentary is about. But we love the idea of like embracing like the rock and roll cliches as we fantasize them, being kids in the 90s, born and raised in France. Yeah. So for us, it's almost exotic, and that was a once in a lifetime thing. And so now this is done, and we'll never do a documentary.
Have you watched the documentary back recently, or is it like, no, it's in the past?
No, I haven't seen it since it was got released actually.
No, we've seen bits here and there, but
yeah, I saw the beat resurfacing where I sing Under the Bridge to Anthony Kiedis' face, which was very embarrassing even to do, you know what I mean? Because like this documentary was shot in a very short amount of time. So we had like to have the maximum of footage and just like make things happen. Otherwise, there would be nothing happening. And so we're with him, and I started like singing to his face, and that was very long.
This album, Hyperdrama, is very cinematic in places. Would you be interested in doing a film score in the future?
Yeah, never say never, but it's so restrictive in many ways that we'll have to find the right project. Yeah.
But we would love to, that like there's many fields where we feel that there would be something interesting to do. But the film score, it often sounds like it's gonna be like a 3 years fight between you and the studios and the producer, more than a 3 years fight to make like the best music possible. But there are people who make it great, you know, like Jonathan Glazer and Mika Levy, or I don't know if you say Mika Levy or Mika Levy. I think it's Mika Levy. Like they're doing great. Johnny Greenwood is doing great with like Paul Thomas Anderson. So there are like some ways of making it good, but this is not the type of projects that we've been offered to do yet.
Are there particular projects that you still have on your wish list? Do you just still want to do more remixes, or is that something you're not as interested in these days?
No,
No.
we're not really interested in doing remixes. Yeah.
No, I mean we've done a lot,
Yeah.
and it was like a very experimental play field for us. But no, I guess now we'd rather do our own music. Yeah.
And yeah, there's this like thing about remixes. It's either it's less good than the original song, so what is it for? Or it's better and it destroys the original song, and then it becomes a problem. So there's not really like a win-win situation in a remix. That said, sometimes we hear a remix of a track and we love it, but the trade-off is that then we have the original track and we find it corny compared to the remix, so it's not good.
I do feel like there are some songs that are almost unremixable. Like it feels like every few years someone will do a remix of Donna Summer, I Feel Love, and you think, why? The original's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Why would you
of
touch
course.
it?
Yeah, that's a shame, It's a bit like making a film about like I don't know, like I want to write like a disclosure. Right now, I'm gonna talk about something I have no idea. But to me, it's like making a film about Superman for the 18th time, and maybe it's good to use this energy and this workforce to make something new, rather than than doing. Have they made a remix of I Feel Love recently?
Yeah, I think there was one 3 or 4 years
yeah,
ago.
every year,
There's
I
always a
guess.
few.
Yeah,
Some of them are quite good, but they're never better.
there's gonna be one. Yeah.
Just ask a couple more questions. Where's the weirdest place you've heard your music over the years? Be that in a weird place or on an unlikely film or TV show?
Well, I have a story, but it's not a weird place at all. But like once I was at JFK at the airport, and I hear like a music through like the small speakers they have, like very low, and I'm like, wow, that sounds good. I'm gonna get next to it like to record it because I want to know what it is for later. And that was Genesis, like a track from our opening album. But I couldn't recognize it until I was really close to the speaker, and I was like, oh shit, that's us. But from far away, with like very low sound, I felt it was quite good. But that's like, okay, now I have another story. It's my mother. One day she's at the supermarket and she sees a man like coming to her and say, hey, what's up? And she has no idea who he is. She was like, yeah, well, you good, you? And then they have a chit chat for 1 minute. And then the guy walks away and she's thinking, I have no idea who the hell was that guy, And then he walks, and once he's like 50 meters away or a bit more, she then recognizes him as the neighbor, and she's always seen him from a certain distance. So when he was close, she had no idea who he was, and when he was just like a shape, like far away, she recognized him. And that's the same thing, like out of context. That explains why I liked that track and I didn't recognize it. It's because it was in a place I was not expecting to hear it, and in the situation. So.
And last one, how do you want this album, Hyperdrama, to make people feel?
Hopefully moved, physically and emotionally.
Yeah, to me, like the best, and it's very personal because this is how I like to listen to music. I really love when my first reaction is not completely positive, and when there are things that I question in the way of making. And all the last records I loved, there's always something at the beginning where I'm like, okay, why did they do that like this? And like a very mainstream example is the White Stripes, for example, and that's not yesterday, but when like the first time you are confronted to a White Stripe record, like everything sounds so rough, so like a bit out of place at times, but in a great way. And then you listen to it again and you're like, yeah, okay. And then you can't, like, it's part of your life and you can't escape it anymore. And I had the same thing with like If Tomorrow. when the first time I was listening to his new songs, I was really like a bit unsettled by the way it sounds, the choices and everything. And then you get back to it, and actually you are like, okay, that's the best sounding thing I've heard recently. So ideally, like the good reaction, and actually Hyperdrama is full of these moments that are meant to be a bit unsettling. So the ideal plan was like, first listen, you like some part of it, and some part of it you're like, why is it like this? But then you come back to it, and then it becomes the most important record of your life.
Amazing.
And maybe there's going to be a couple of people that is going to be the case.
No, but yeah, it's something we like to do, but just for the experiment as well, like just to make something that is a bit disturbing and probably maybe at time repelling, just to make something happen and to not let the listener get too comfortable.
Yeah, we've used this example quite a lot recently, but you know, like I don't know if you remember the first time you had a coffee or a beer as a kid, and the first reaction is like, wow, why it's like bitter, it's awful, you know. But somehow now you can't spend a day without having a coffee or a beer, you know, it becomes part of your life. So it's a good reaction of like not being immediately seduced by something, but enough that you want to get back to it.
Yeah, and a quiet taste. Yeah. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank
It's
you
been a
very
real
much.
pleasure. Thank you.